Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Shittim. And they came to the Jordan, and he and all the people of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. At the end of the 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people, "As soon as you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord, your God, being carried by the Levitical priests, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Yet there shall be a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits in length. Do not come near it, in order that you may know the way you shall go, for you have not passed by this way before." Then Joshua said to the people, "Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you." And Joshua said to the priests, "Take up the ark of the covenant and pass on before the people." So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that I was with Moses, so I will be with you. And as for you, command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, when you come to the brink of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan." And Joshua said to the people of Israel, "Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God." And Joshua said, "Here is how you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is passing over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore take 12 men from the tribes of Israel, from each tribe a man. And when the soles of his feet of the priest bearing the ark of the Lord of all the earth shall rest in the waters of the Jordan. The waters of the Jordan shall be cut off from flowing, and the waters come down from above shall stand in one heap." So when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan, with the priest bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as soon as those bearing the ark had come as far as the Jordan, and the feet of the priest bearing the ark were dipped in the brink of the water, now the Jordan overflows all its banks throughout the time of harvest. The waters coming down from above stood and rose up in a heap very far away, at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan. And those overflowing down toward the sea of Araba, the salt sea, were completely cut off, and the people passed over opposite Jericho. Now the priest, hearing the ark of the covenant of the Lord, stood firmly on the ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all Israel was passing over on dry ground until all the nation finished passing over the Jordan. Church, as we get into Joshua chapter 3, this is a phenomenal text for us to look at. I'm sure you've hopefully had the opportunity to see our study in Joshua 1 and 2, but this is an incredible time for the children of Israel, because here in Joshua 3, we see a moment that similarly happened before, 40 years ago. If you look in Numbers, the book of Numbers, specifically chapter 14, Joshua is ready for the people of Israel to go into the land that God had promised for them. And the truth is they weren't ready. And they murmured and they complained and they said horrible and ridiculous things like, "God, wouldn't this be better if we were dying in Egypt right now, or dying in the very wilderness that we came from?" And because of that, there was a consequence that they were not able to go into the land. And Joshua and Caleb are the only two from that generation that remain here in this moment. But instead of the hesitation, instead of the complaints, instead of the frustration, instead of all of these things, what we see is a group of people that are ready and are willing to obey and move and go. And I think there is something that is so incredible about that. We think about the book of Joshua in chapter 1, as I'm sure was mentioned before. There is this statement that God says to him, and it's, "Be strong and courageous, for I am with you." And the thing that we will see constantly throughout this book is that God does incredible things in the lives of the Hebrew people because he is with them. And as they respond to that, as they are willing, as they are able to go and move, we see amazing things happen. Because the reason why the Hebrews were so worried 40 years ago and were not willing to go was because they talked about there were giants in the land. And in Joshua chapter 2, we see that hasn't changed. There is this huge stronghold that is Jericho that the people will still have to engage, will have to deal with. This stronghold is so big that even the passage in chapter 2 references people live in the walls themselves. But yet there's no hesitation. There's no frustration. All we see is God telling the children of Israel, this is the time, this is their moment to go. And they do it. And if anything, in this beautiful thematic sequence, also paralleling to Moses, parting the sea, we see the Jordan part and the people walk through into the promised land that God has for them. And you might think, well, Jack, that's fantastic. That's so great that we finally see Israel in this chapter of a horrible 40-year stretch. But what does this have to do with me? How does this apply to us? And one beautiful thing that I love about the Old Testament is that all of this bridges and connects directly to the gospel. And just as God sent Moses before the children of Israel, and just as God sent Joshua before the children of Israel to lead them, Jesus was sent for us. Jesus was sent to lead and to be the guide for us. And what we see is in this beautiful, maybe similar fashion, as Jesus is coming to the end of his time with us, he looks at the people and he says, now is your time. Now is your time to go. Now is your time, Mark 16:15. Now is your time to go and preach the gospel. The end of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, now is your time to go and to make disciples. I'm going to send the Holy Spirit to empower you to do the things that I am calling you to do. So the question then is, as it was for Israel in Joshua chapter 3, as it was for Israel in Numbers chapter 14, it is to us here. And that is this: are we willing? Are we willing to cross into the thing, into the place that God has for us? In fact, guys, I think this applies to us so strongly, specifically to Switzerland Community Church. As I'm new and have been here a little over a month, I'm learning of our vision and our mission statement. And literally, Andrew Steyer has it printed on the wall in the lighthouse that our vision is that we could help others to take their next steps in following Jesus. So we find ourselves at the precipice like the people do at the Jordan River. What are your next steps? How can we help others to take their next step? Jesus lays it out for us. But then maybe we start to wrestle with what maybe some of the children of Israel have wrestled with. Maybe we've dropped the ball. I'll be honest, guys, there have been times in my life where there have been opportunities, there have been moments for me to share my faith, there have been moments for me to follow in the path that God has for me. And I haven't done it. And whether that has been through fear or intimidation or frustration, or I'm just having a really bad day or whatever, and I dropped the ball from that. And thanks be to God, we are not being disinherited from this promise that God has for us as the Israelites were. And Numbers know what God has for us is this beautiful grace and mercy, and that every single day we find ourselves in this incredible position and place when we move forward and be strong and courageous. Will we move forward and go? Will we move forward to help others to take their next step in following Jesus? Guys, as we continue to go through the book of Joshua, you are going to see the people respond over and over and over again. And sometimes they'll mess up, you'll see. But for the most part, respond in a beautiful and incredible way, just as you saw the disciples of Jesus throughout the New Testament respond in a beautiful and incredible way. Guys, that's what I want to see us respond here at Switzerland Community Church. That we could read the text, that we could see the words of God for us this morning and say, it is our time to cross into the things that God has for us. That we could see that and testify of his goodness and his grace of what he is going to do here among us. Hope you guys are having a great day and look forward to the rest of our study.